So again, for the record, you're both good with the playoff expansion to 12.
I preferred 8, but I mean, if it's going to get expanded and they want to, because obviously they're expanding more because obviously the finance is part of it. Like, there's a lot of money to be made. So, I mean, I think 12 is better than 4, but I think 8 is better than 12. And I think 6 is better than 12. But if it's going to 12, I like 12 much better than I like 4.
I like the opportunity for a team to lose a game and still be in it. You know, Mark, you said it best. You know, Oregon took a chance a couple different times. They played the Auburn game. They played the LSU game to start the year. You know, they've tried to have other big games that they get booked into, and, you know, they've lost those openers. And, you know, that's a tough gig. You know, you open the season with a big game like that. It's like Daytona, right? It's like you got your first game is the biggest game of the whole year, and it's a Super Bowl to start the year off, and you lose that thing. It's hard to rebuild your rest of your confidence to go back into week 2 and put that thing back together again. And the rest of the social, you know, media, everything else, these kids are inundated with stuff now. I mean, the previous generation didn't have to deal with. And, you know, so going out and losing that first game, knowing that you could lose it and still rebound and get back to the thing at the end, that's going to keep kids motivated. That's going to be a big deal going forward. So I like the idea of just that simple idea of everybody can have a conference champion. And then the SEC's happy with this idea that your conference champion can also have somebody else. So you can have LSU and Bama go out of the same division. You don't have to have that argument of, well, they didn't even win their division. Well, yeah, their division is the best thing in football. What do you expect? SEC West, whoever wins the SEC West has the chance of the championship.
Pac-12 fans should automatically just love the playoff expansion because of one thing. There's an automatic bid for conference champions.
Exactly.
And I understand.
I thought it was an automatic bid for the 5 highest ranked.
I'm getting there, Mike.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So 10 conferences. Yes. The 6 highest ranked conference champions go. But let's make no mistake about it. If you go through the entirety of college football, so I went through the last 8 years. Let's save 2020 because we had a non-division winner in the Pac-12 go to the championship game and then win. And yeah, they were 4-2 and all that. They played 6 games. Okay. Outside of that, make no mistake about it. The formula is going to be the 5 Power 5 champions, and then the best group of 5 champion are going to be your 6 automatic conference champions to make it. So this is great news for the Pac-12 that's been shut out, 2017, 18, 19, 24 consecutive seasons. That is no longer going to be the case. At least one entry into the playoff every year for the Pac-12. And actually, I've run the numbers. I wish I had it in front of me. But anyway, I'm doing a series where I'm applying the 12-team playoff to each season during the playoff era. And people would be surprised at how many Pac-12 teams would have made a 12-team playoff. It's not like just the champion and then, wow, the Pac-12 sucks, so nobody made it. No, that's not the case.
No, I could see that. I mean, go back to the year where Stanford beat Oregon. Stanford might have gone and Oregon might have gone. Or, you know, having USC or having, you know, a school where you don't face them in the Pac-12 championship and they're able to have their record go. They don't get, like you're saying, they don't win their division, but yet they have a great season or whatever. I tend to think that the more teams, the more eyes you're going to have on the thing at the end. What I don't like is I think you're going to slowly fizzle out the rest of the bowls, and this thing is going to kind of go into this deal in the future where
there's no question about that.
And that's fine. I mean, I'm not worried about that. I think having bowls at, you know, January or December 17th or, you know, is a little ridiculous, and having 32 bowl games or something, having 6 and 6 teams play each other maybe is not that exciting, but Vegas loves it. The tremendous amount of eyeballs on those games for at least just the number. And then I also do like what it does for the actual football programs where it gives the kids a chance to go out with a win. So, but it would be cool to see, you're right. It would be cool to see more matchups of more Power 5 schools. It's another great element of the playoff would be to be able to have the matchups correctly. If you get the seeding, now everybody's going to be worried about the seeding and where they're at, just like you see with now the NBA playoffs the last couple of weeks. Everybody's worried about where they're at in the seeding. it would generate a tremendous amount of interest into the Pac-12 versus the Big 10 or the Big 12 or the SEC or ACC, and to be able to get these matchups. The Pac-12 rarely ever plays the ACC or the SEC, so it'd be really great to see these things match up. And these are the games people care about, instead of it being the 5th place Pac-12 team in the 6th place SEC team in the Zaxby's Bowl or whatever. You could go the other route where you have the top 2 teams in the conferences play each other. I think that'd be fantastic.
So don't completely hold me to this, because I did run through the 12-team playoff and I applied it to all the playoff seasons, but this isn't it. But this is a rough draft. Once I applied, I won't go through my thought process. Anyway, this is basically what would have happened. In 2014, of course, Oregon would have made it. And also Arizona out of the Pac-12. Surprisingly, the team that Oregon dusted in the championship game would have held on. They were the 10th ranked team in the country after the Pac-12 championship game at 10-3. So they would have made a 12-team playoff. In 2015, of course, Stanford, the great Christian McCaffrey team that dusted Iowa in the Rose Bowl, they would have been there. And they would have been the only Pac-12 participant that year. 2016, Washington won the Pac-12. That's a team that lost to Alabama in the playoff, and the last playoff team out of the Pac-12. But you also would have had Colorado as the Pac-12 championship game loser, would have made it, and also USC. So you would have had 3 teams, and that's the USC team that won the Rose Bowl over Penn State. 2017, you would have had the USC team that won the Pac-12 and played Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl, and Washington that lost to Penn State in the Fiesta Bowl that year. That was a 10-2 team. So you would have had 2 teams for the Pac-12 in 2017. In 2018, you would have had
State.
Washington. Well, no. You know what? You should be right, Ryan. Get this. I don't have it in front of me, but I ran the numbers and went through it. So the at-large teams are going to be selected based on the college football playoff rankings. So you would have thought Washington State had the best record in the Pac-12 after the regular season, 10-2. But they actually were trumped by a host of 9-3 teams, and they were not one of the 12 highest-ranked teams in the country. So they would have been left out in favor of a bunch of 9-3 teams. Washington would have made it in 2018 as the Pac-12 champion, even though they had one more. They were 10-3 going into the playoff. And then in 2019, Oregon, of course, is the Pac-12 champion, 11-2. And also Utah, the loser of the Pac-12 championship game at 11-2, would have been the 11 seed. So generally 2 teams would have made it out of the Pac-12 almost every year, and 3 in one season.
It's pretty good. I mean, I'd take that. And again, it just changes the focus of the end of the season. You know, it changes the focus to more of a playoff. It looks a little bit more like March Madness. You know, March Madness being the most popular thing basically in the entire calendar year. That first weekend, people absolutely love it. Gamblers love it. Vegas loves it. I mean, you have secretaries filling out brackets. You have people who have no concern about the sport at all are interested that first weekend in March Madness. You'd probably bring a lot of eyeballs that you're already crushing it with college football. I mean, it's an exponential growth in the last 20 years, and this would definitely change that. It would definitely help the sport. They tried to do it with the BCS. They tried to get some of the arguments out of it at the end of the day. They've altered it. They've shifted it. You knew it was going to change when they said, I don't know what was the original number of years that they had signed up for or whatever. It was down to 2026 or something, 2024. But you knew they were going to change it before that. I mean, you just had a feeling that as it grows, there's more money in the pot. More people are going to want to have a piece of this, especially ESPN, right?
And to somebody's point, one of you made it about 2018 in the Oregon team that lost late in the season to Arizona State. So really the only difference between Oregon and Oklahoma, who made the playoff that year, is that Oregon went out and played, like you said, Ryan, they went out and played that Auburn game the first week and lost. And then Oklahoma and Oregon both lost, were upset. within conference, but Oklahoma didn't play a tough non-conference game. They were playing UCLA home and home. We know how good UCLA was at that point under Chip Kelly. So basically, Oregon went out and they blew their playoff spot by playing Auburn, and that game went right down to the wire, of course.
And there again, risk reward, right? You beat Auburn, now you're in the national conversation, and you can finally say to somebody else, hey, we beat that team. At the beginning of the year, Auburn did look like a pretty good team. They ended up being what, Mike, the fourth team out there, third or fourth team in the West, or something, maybe the fifth team in the SEC or so. I don't know, but the case may be is that it worked against Oregon, trying to get out there, trying to get the buzz. The nice thing about what that is, though, from just a hype perspective, is that Oregon was in the discussion that whole summer. That game is a big game, and I think that's actually worth it, to start to get the noise out there, the hype out there. Now, you didn't follow through on it. Again, that was a crazy play at the end of the game, and they end up winning. But you got respect from the South. You got people who said, hey, that's a pretty quality program, even though they lost the game. We'll still kind of root for them a little bit, which was not maybe the case in years past with Oregon. It felt like Oregon was a thorn in the traditionalist side years ago. People were not on board. I feel like now they're more comfortable with it. They've seen it. They've grown accustomed to the O a little bit, and now they're more willing to support Oregon than maybe they were in the past. If Oregon could come out this year, I'm serious. If Oregon beats Ohio State, it's gonna be headline news. And if Oregon beats Ohio State, it's headline news. If Ohio State beats Oregon, it's just what people are going to expect. And if Oregon makes some noise this year early in the year, and you get that win against Ohio State, then all bets are off. Then the sky's the limit. But until that happens, I'm just going to be comfortable with trying to get a Pac-12 championship and trying to get back to a Rose Bowl.
For anybody out there that wants more analysis on the 12-team playoff proposal, I'm not going to run it down right now. Please check out my video on the main channel, because I've got a whole lot to say, good and negative, about the playoff proposal, because I'm pretty strong on my points on the favorable side, but also I think they messed it up in a couple areas for sure.